Hello everybody and welcome back to FPL Link. My name is Dan and today's the day, the final day of those all-important price reveals from the official FPL Twitter page. I've actually changed up some audio settings on this video, so please do comment if you think that they sound better, sound a bit clearer. I've messed around after we're already recording some videos and played with some settings, so hopefully it's a bit more clearer. Less stuttering and a bit more easy on the ears. So please do let me know if that's a little bit better. So let's jump into the video. We've got Spurs up first with Harry Kane coming in at a surprising 11.5 million. Son coming in at that 12 million remaining as a midfielder as well, and Perisic only coming in at 5.5 million. So yeah, I mean, Kane 11.5. I think I'm a little bit surprised at that. I thought he would come in at 12, but that's the perfect price point really for Haaland and Kane to be swapped if form dictates that we need to do that. Midfielder for Son, I think it's justified. I mean, it's the thing is that on the team sheets he is classified as that winger. And Kane is playing as the number 9. It's just that Kane, I'd say over the past maybe 2 seasons, has just developed that much more playmaking role, similar to kind of what Wayne Rooney used to do as well, the way he used to step in, become, rather than just that out-and-out striker, he now understands maybe a little bit more of how to pick that perfect pass, and Son they just seem to be on that same page, don't they? So very interested to see what those two can do. Perisic at 5.5. I think I've seen quite a lot of community reaction on this, and I'm going to be honest. My personal view is that I think it's a real big overestimation on what this guy might do. He's 33 years old. He's never played in the Premier League before. That's not to say that he's not a good player by any stretch of the imagination. I think he will probably play in an advanced midfielder role as well, so we could potentially benefit from more attacking returns from him. But I just think that, yeah, as I say, I think there's just a bit too much excitement. I know, I'm definitely on the Haaland bandwagon for sure in terms of what I think he will do. But this guy is a completely different age, a completely different talent in terms of generations. They're worlds apart. They're a whole decade apart essentially. So I'll be interested to see what he can do. But I think as a game week 1 option, I'm pretty sure I'm going to avoid him if I'm honest. But we'll see. Again, coming into the drafting phase when the game's released, we'll see what I can put together. I may draft him in a couple of examples just to see what it looks like. So Lloris actually coming in at 5.5, so a little bit more expensive than some of the other goalkeepers we've seen. So I think he's pretty much an avoid at that price. I think Alisson was already showcased at 5.5 already straight away. If you're gonna stretch that far on the budget, I think Alisson's going to be the option out of the two of those. Sessegnon had a run in the team towards the end of the season, 4.5. I think that's fair. Dyer and Doherty, of course, Doherty increasing there by 0.5. I don't think there's any surprises there really on what he produced. Question marks over his fitness at the beginning as well. And Spurs fixtures, I wouldn't say they're essentially the fixtures we should maybe target between that kind of game week 1 and 5 mark. I think definitely you've got Southampton first, which is of course a great fixture really. You'd argue at home for first day of the season. So the problem is with drafting them in so early, I guess, is you're already building a team around possible transfers out. I might do the same, but I think in the defensive positions you don't really want to be, in my opinion anyway, interchanging those positions too much in the early days. Bentancur 5.5, not too bad. He got a couple of assists, I guess. So he's in that Neto price bracket. So potentially, I'm not too sure though. From an FPL asset, great player, but from an FPL asset, probably not so much. Kulusevski getting that £8 million increase, which again I think the community anticipated. 8 million again is that sweet spot for those City midfielders, Saka, Mount. So potentially he could come into play if I think form again comes into play. But for a starting draft, again, I may play around and do certain drafts with certain players in to see what the team looks like in terms of balance. But I don't think I'll go with him straight away. So next up we have Leicester with Maddison on the first slide through at 8 million. See, another 8 million midfielder. That price point just seems to be, like I say, a pretty sweet spot really for quite a number of players. Vardy coming at 9.5, slightly awkward. Barnes at 7. Schmeichel at 5 there. James Justin, hopefully he can do some good things for Leicester this season. 4.5 million. Pereira 4.5. Dewsbury Hall expected to increase from that 4.5 mark, I guess, up to the 5. Daka and Iheanacho 6 and 6.5 respectively. I think all justified prices really. It'd be interesting to see how many minutes Daka and Iheanacho get between them with Vardy. Coming towards the end of his career, really twilight, I suppose you could say in terms of football terms. 7 million for Barnes, interesting. So that could sort of Coutinho price point. Again, I'm not sure so far. This is, I suppose, with the final day, I can kind of summarise a little bit more of my feelings about price points. But I think they've definitely packed out those midfield options between that 7 to 8.5 mark. Bowen obviously coming in at the latter end of that with 8.5. Maddison 8, Mount 8, Foden 8, Mahrez 8. There's so many options. I'm not too sure that we'll see all of them in terms of people's drafts and differentiate too much. I think there might be sort of like one or two probably standouts from there. But what it does help us with in the short term planning for sure will mean that if Maddison absolutely starts nailing it for the first 2 weeks and their fixtures look great, that's an easy move from a Diaz, from a Mount into Maddison. And it only takes one, which is really what you want in terms of transfer strategy. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see how many have been revealed that way. Palace, I don't think that for some reason they haven't followed the same format with the price reveals. So I'm just going to open this in a new tab and hopefully we can go through some of the prices this way. So sorry, not as graphically impressive from the Twitter page, but so Guaita coming in at 4.5, Mitchell 4.5, Gahey 4.5 there. So pretty much they're nailed on defenders. Are all at the 4.5 mark. Palace's fixtures again though not the area we should be looking at, I don't think, off the bat. But Guaita coming in at 4.5 is interesting. That is quite a cheap price, to be honest. I don't know what his stats fully looked like last season. I'd have to look at that, but potentially could draft him into a few options. Why not? I guess at that price. Interestingly here as well, Eze and Elise coming in at 5.5 each. So that Neto price point. So if there is that obvious fixture swing from a Wolves into a Palace asset, that could be possible. Zaha, again, no, I don't think any surprises there, coming in at 7 million, the same price as Coutinho and Barnes. And yeah, you can really see that these midfielder positions, by sort of maybe drafting those ranges between 5.5 and 7, that could potentially be a strategy for the first few weeks. And then Edouard and Mateta coming in at 5.5 each as well. Not too sure still, like as I said before on a previous video, how I feel about the budget striker options. Like I said, I've seen Undav a couple of times come in, but I'm just not convinced with him, to be honest with you. Maybe you guys disagree with me, and maybe you end up drafting him in. And for sure, again, I will probably do the same. I will just have a look at what it looks like with a 5.5 million forward in. These Undav drafts don't necessarily mean they are going to be committed to him. So it's interesting to see a couple of options at that price point as well here from a Palace perspective. Who have we got next up? So Everton next up. Calvert-Lewin priced at 8 million. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest shocks I've seen so far, to be honest. I think the game's just got it wrong with certain prices. I really do. I think 8 million for him just doesn't make any sense. He scored, I think, was it 1 goal? I know, again, this is injuries and so on, but how can you price Bamford at 7.5, Calvert-Lewin at 8, and then someone like, I don't know, even, so just say Watkins, how is he 7.5 or cheaper versus Calvert-Lewin when he had a sort of an average season, he scored 12 maybe goals, something like that for Villa? It doesn't really make sense to me, but maybe the game is just anticipating that he comes back and he produces what he did in the 2021 season, because he did, Hall. He did put in some really good shifts for for Everton. So we'll see, though. We'll see. I mean, he's not the same player with the same midfielders behind him. So I'm not too sure with that price point really. Pickford actually 4.5. I think he reduced down from 5 last season. As in his price dropped. So 4.5 I think is reasonable. They didn't really keep many clean sheets. Gordon at 5.5. No surprises there really. Tarkowski obviously a signing from Burnley, 4.5 million. Potentially could be a budget option. Scores a header or two, but normally I think I mentioned it again in a previous video. Centre backs, they may be an option depending on, again, this 5 substitution rule. Wing backs, do they get the minutes? Maybe something to evaluate later down the line if we need to reset the structure of a team. But he's not a bad player. I think that's a good signing for Everton. Mikalenko also coming in at 4.5. Dele, I don't think. Decore, Gray, Iwobi, all of those midfielders there again at that netto price point, 5.5. I think Damari Gray and Decore have had glimmers of not hauls, but definitely. Well, Decore's had a few double digits. Same for Gray. So maybe you can consider those hauls. But yeah, again, I think that's a real sweet spot, and maybe that's potentially a price point that we need to fill in our teams just to give us that flexibility. And last but not least, just most recently here, we've got Nottingham Forest. So it looks like they haven't revealed as many players really here. And to be honest with you, I don't know enough about Nottingham Forest to really talk about their players. So I won't even attempt to look at them. And again, I think that from a newly promoted side, options, it's so difficult to draft these players in anyway. So again, apologies for Bournemouth, Fulham, Nottingham Forest fans if you're watching. I'm sure you'll agree, from a fantasy standpoint, if you're not looking at rank overall, sure, you want to put your team. I imagine from a Nottingham Forest perspective, if you're a fan, they're coming into the Premier League again for the first time in how many years. If you want to put one of your players in there, why not? I mean, £6 million as a budget forward, sure. If you can stretch it, or if you can find the budget for it, I guess so. But do I expect them to really be producing and something that from a template perspective, or something we should be looking at moving forward? I don't think so, really, to be honest. So yeah, with that one, that's going to wrap it up for all of the player prices. I'm really, really hoping that the official game either launches tonight or tomorrow, or definitely at some point this week, and then I'll definitely start putting some drafts together. I have considered doing some within the third-party websites like Live FPL or FPL.team, but I've toyed with the idea, but I think it just makes more sense to just go into the official game once maybe more player prices are announced or released alongside the whole game. Just so I can fully flesh out the team, because even the bench options, although it might sound irrelevant, I suppose, for those players to come into consideration, they could just be the budget options that we end up going for. I'd still like to flesh it out properly. So let me know if you agree. If you'd like to see, if the game doesn't release tonight or tomorrow, or like this week that we expect it to, then let me know in the comments, or what your feeling is. Do you want to see content like that? Would you like to see me tinker? Would you like me to do a live stream? I don't know. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, guys, and hopefully see you in a tinkering session very, very soon.